Daredevil. Scrotal Recall is really funny.
Scrotal, that's right.
Yes.
It's that's on my queue. I haven't started that one yet.
Oh, cue it up.
I love binge watching.
Yeah, I mean, I binge, and not just, look at the size of me, man. I'm a binger. Did not leave the house until just hours and hours every day, and I loved it.
I am a binge watcher.
Four Midwest Guys presents Binge Watch.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Four Midwest Guys Presents Binge Watch. Today we'll be reviewing Jessica Jones Season 1, and here with me today to help me do that is Mr. Brian Eggebauer.
Yeah, what's up, what's up?
What's going on, B? And my brother, Aaron.
Hey, man, how's it going?
Pretty good, dude, pretty good. So we'll be reviewing Jessica Jones tonight, Season 1. This is the our second binge watch. And we're kind of going in order with these. This is the second Netflix Marvel comic book series.
Just doing this one before we go back to Daredevil Season 2.
Season 2.
Kind of timeline of how
yeah,
it was
we're just
released.
kind of following sequence because it makes sense.
Yeah.
Kind of, sort of.
I see where you go. The thought process is.
Because you can't really talk. There's certain things you can't talk about because they're
Yeah, by the time you get to Daredevil Season 2, like this kind of plays into that one a little bit, and then it plays into Luke Cage further on.
So for those of you playing at home, yes, after we do Daredevil Season 2, then we will review Luke Cage.
Yeah, and maybe by then Iron Fist will be out, so we're all on to that one.
Right, and we'll be caught up and ready to go.
Yeah.
So, again, this was the second Netflix comic book series, another 13 episodes. Big difference between Daredevil and Jessica Jones, I think, is this thing is just way more dramatic and way more character-driven. There's no punches pulled with this series.
I think you can make the argument Daredevil was very physically violent. This is very emotionally violent.
Yeah, I'd like to say that everybody has PTSD, post-traumatic syndrome.
Oh, in the show?
Yeah, in some shape or form.
There's a lot of characters that do. Like, there's probably only some cases you'd probably deal more with grief, anxiety, maybe even survivor's guilt. Yeah. Like, so you do have variations where it's not just post-traumatic stress, but yeah, everyone's dealing with their own emotional issues.
Well, yeah.
By the time you're even kind of in the beginning or even midway through the show.
Absolutely, Brian.
Yeah, I mean, I'm same boat as you guys. You can tell that everybody has their own issues. It's all coming after the Avengers,
right?
Because I think did they make reference to it in the very beginning?
They make reference to
that.
it,
And like midway through the season, you have like the couple that's trying to like lure Jessica into like a hotel room so they can kill her,
right?
To get revenge on like what all the other metas did or some shit,
right? So
there's some contrived like bullshit.
Yeah, so you can tell that they're dealing with the aftermath of the Avengers coming out and being the special team, whatever.
This kind of works.
This is Hell's Kitchen, which is right in the base of where a lot of the destruction happened when the whatchamacallit came.
Invasion. Yeah.
So I mean, you can tell a lot of people are going to have not so much post-traumatic stress, but a lot of deep emotional issues.
Oh yeah. Especially dealing with a character like Kilgrave, as we do later in the series. Like after you kind of get his abilities out, like there's a bit where he like more or less just takes over a family's home and the kids are just trapped in the closet, pissing themselves. Like, there's no walking away from that with, pleasant, memories.
Like I said, they pull no punches. I mean, we deal with rape, we deal with drug abuse, child abuse, even incest, really, if you count that weird neighbor couple.
I don't know. Like, it's weird, but I'm not sure, like, how clear it is on that. Like, it kind of implies it pretty heavily, right? It implies it
pretty heavily. They don't come out and say it, but they might as well. I mean,
like, then you have, like, the brother that has, like, a crush on her, and then he gets killed.
And she's jealous.
Yeah, it gets super jealous, and it's like, it's definitely a super weird relationship.
It's very, there's nothing in this series that is mild.
Yeah, I mean, and like her next door neighbor is like a drug addict who's, eventually we find out is actually following her around on Kilgrave's order, who not only was a journalist, but, was actually, he was a social worker, wasn't he?
I believe it was a social worker, yeah.
He was a social worker, and Kilgrave, got him hooked on drugs so he could make it easier to control him.
Precisely.
How fucked up is that?
Well, that's a mastermind villain to a new degree.
Oh, yeah.
We're used to the master plot. I'm going to steal a nuclear weapon and hold it hostage.
Yeah, but you look at
Kilgrave
Kilgrave
this.
He's just he just wants to do whatever he wants to do at that moment. He's just a selfish, psychopath.
Well, I remember when this first came out, we talked about it on DC Kings, Marvel DC Kings.
Yeah.
We said this was probably one of the best Marvel villains we had to date.
Oh, yeah. For me, this is up there with Kingpin's.
Yeah.
And honestly, the funny thing is, you look in the Netflix series, between Kingpin and Kilgrave, they're two of the best villains in Netflix, or in the Marvel, film, television universe.
Yeah, I would say, the only three that really stand out to me is Kingpin and Kilgrave and Loki.
Yeah, kind of.
Are really the only three that I
mean, you could probably throw in Red Skull there, but he's
so brief.
Yeah, exactly. That's why it's you can't even really kind of put him in the same category, but at least he's iconic enough to where he's recognizable. But
right.
All right, so let's get into the character. We're going to go character by character and just talk a little bit about them for the rest of the podcast. So, obviously, let's talk about Jessica Jones, who's played by Kristen Ritter. Who does a
really good job, actually.
Very, very good job.
And I think before this, she did, what was it? Don't Trust the Bitch in Apartment 23 or something.
I hadn't seen. She looks familiar.
Yeah, the B in Apartment 23.
Oh, okay. And that's the only thing I really know her from, and I only saw a couple episodes of that.
The funny thing is, she looks familiar, but I've never seen her in anything. If that makes any sense.
Well, because she looks very similar to Rose McGowan.
No, maybe that's what it is.
She kind of has some of the similar attributes, when you're just kind of glancing at her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I actually don't know who Rose McGowan is off the top of my head.
Rose McGowan she was in Charmed. She was one of the sisters in Charmed.
Oh, okay.
She was in that movie Jawbreaker.
Oh, okay. I kind of know what you're talking about then.
Yeah.
Right.
She usually plays the evil character or something.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, she did a really good job. This character has been torn apart in many different ways. She's been torn apart by her parents' death.
It has her parents died when she was 8 or 12 in that range,
right?
At a very young age,
right? And then she has to deal with her powers, and then of course, obviously being controlled by Kilgrave for so long.
Which was 6 months to a year or something like that, and then went through years of dealing with it, and it actually mentions her therapy sessions.
Oh yeah,
she does that little thing where she counts down the streets near her home.
She has
she actually learned coping mechanisms to deal with the aftermath.
Well, she has to. It begs the question: is what's left of a person after being totally controlled like that and being completely, not just mind fucked, but literally. You're controlled.
Well, not just mind fucked, but literally fucked. This has been very open about this being kind of a pretty heavy rape allegation throughout the whole thing.
Sure. Yeah.
Even as kind of overall as an allegory for it.
Well, yeah. It's just because of his superpower or super villain power. He completely takes advantage of the person, and the problem with his
they don't have the ability to opt out of it. It's just overriding their decisions.
And the problem with his power is not only can he control them, but the people remember it.
Yeah,
it's not like they go blank and
no. It's just they're sitting in the background of their own mind, just watching it.
It's basically just John Malkovich.
Yeah, essentially, and they're just it's it's torture. It's literally torture.
You have the one female character that Kilgrave is taking control of when you first meet that character, and he convinces her to kill her parents in an elevator, and she's aware of it, witnesses the whole thing, and just has to deal with that.
Yeah, that's one of the more disturbing scenes. Well, there's a lot of
disturbing scenes in this season, man. But, to be honest, as brutal as some of the fight scenes were in Daredevil, you go in terms of disturbing. No, this season or Jessica Jones easily had a beat.
It's at times it is very hard to watch. I'll be honest. There are moments. It's good, and you want to know what happens next.
Yeah, it's one of those things as violent as Daredevil it is, I think if you were like have a teenager, you could probably let them watch it without it being a thing. But with this, you might be a bit more cautious with it.
Yeah, I would say you'd probably... I wouldn't let my daughter watch this till she's 19, but that's just me. Obviously, the character, because of everything she's been through and the amount of loss, she's very jaded, bitter, lost faith in pretty much everybody and everything.
Yeah, and then it kind of... Her job really doesn't help that because her job is kind of more or less looking for the worst parts of everything.
Right.
Like, I'm pretty sure that's almost like the opening monologue that she has in it.
Yeah, because she's a PI.
Yeah,
that's
she's
her line of
pretty
work.
much just looking for like the worst of humanity. And it's like that just, after everything she's been through, that's an easy thing for her to do.
Right, exactly. She can easily pick it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, something I think is really kind of interesting about the Jessica Jones character is how rarely she actually uses her abilities. Like, pretty much, like, she'll use them, like, if she has to, but she doesn't really go out of her way and, like, jump from, like, rooftops or anything like that.
Yeah, and I think that's because she doesn't want anybody to know. I think she'd
like,
rather just
she
stay in
likes
the
blending
background and just, literally blending in or just... She doesn't want to be noticed.
Yeah,
She
and I
doesn't-
mean...
You know...
And the funny thing is, like, her powers don't really even give her an advantage in dealing with Kilgrave, like, because of how the entire mind control thing is set up, outside of just building up a tolerance to it.
Well, then that's the thing. He knows that, and she doesn't know that until about halfway, or almost to the end, really.
Pretty much like 3/4 of the way through,
Yeah, she doesn't understand that. So she is also obviously an alcoholic.
Yeah, but
I mean,
clearly
that's
her liver's
understandable.
processing it pretty well.
Right. I don't know. What do you think about her being an alcoholic, kind of the anti-superhero or reluctant hero at best, Brian?
Well, I mean, we saw this once before with Hancock.
Yeah,
The whole reluctant hero who drinks and everything.
Well, yeah, I think you have like reluctant heroes like throughout mythology pretty heavily as well. Like I think even like in like a lot of the hero journeys aspects of it, you don't necessarily have the person going through the trials and tribulations of it completely willingly at first. Like sometimes there is resistance to it.
I don't know. What do you? I mean, do you like the fact that they portray her this way, Brian? Do you think it's?
Yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed this whole series.
Okay.
I like the she's going through like her PTSD and everything else, and she overcomes it, and you know, it was a nice overall story arc that wrapped itself up. It wasn't one of those like we've seen in some of the other shows we watch where it's a story arc that we think is going to last the entire season. It takes 2 episodes, and then we're on to another story arc.
Yeah,
Right.
Like Luke Cage did. Luke Cage did that
a little bit, but I mean, like if we're giving an example of that, I think Gotham has been way worse about that.
Oh no, Gotham's real bad. But we're sticking with Marvel Netflix.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Luke Cage kind of did that with us with Cottonmouth.
Yeah.
Like we were talking about, we got to the point where we thought we were
Gonna
like,
go somewhere with it.
Yeah, we're like, oh, I really starting to enjoy this Cottonmouth character, and then he was dead. And you're like, what? Like, oh,
Spoiler alert,
here's
by the way.
Diamondback. I'm like, oh, what? Like it was like, I just this one felt more like a story with a
It's
gradual
all kind of complete within its own universe.
Yes.
Like honestly, even if you hadn't seen Daredevil, you'd probably get most of what this show has to offer.
Well, it's funny because this is actually the first one that I binge watched.
Really? Like
Was
you watched
Jessica
this before
Jones.
Daredevil?
Yeah, I watched this one before I watched Daredevil because I knew season 2 was coming out of Daredevil.
So you kind of wanted to watch this.
So I watched season 1 and season 2 of Daredevil back to back, like all in a row.
That's awesome. Yeah,
Yes.
I wish I kind of had that ability down. But all right, let's move on to Jessica's, I guess, adopted sister or stepsister. I'm not sure how to.
It'd be adopted since Jessica was adopted into her family after her parents died.
Okay, so let's talk about Trish Walker, a.k.a. Patsy Walker, the child TV star.
Or AKA Hellcat.
Possibly. We'll see.
Well, in the comics version at the very least.
Right.
Whether that actually becomes the case in the TV
way
show.
to skip way ahead in the notes, but yes.
Well, no, it's just like it's actually a fun comic. They're around the time they released the Squirrel Girl comics, they did Patsy Walker, aka Hellcat. It's a fun little side comic.
Side comic.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
actually pretty good.
Okay, so she is. Besides that, she is Jessica's. We'll call her adopted sister. She's a child star turned radio talk show host therapist. I guess is the best way. to put it.
I guess you kind of
One of
used to
those
have
call-in
these sort of like
shows.
call-in shows like more back in the day. I don't know if we really still have them now.
I think they still exist. I think like sex talk and stuff like.
Yeah,
but
I
like I don't know. I guess like if
Dr.
you think,
Drew or something like. You
like
know.
I don't know what was the one show Kramer.
Yes, well, Kramer would be.
Yeah, that's like kind of what he did, right?
fictional- Yeah, same thing.
But yeah, like that sort of show set up, and I guess kind of capitalizing on her childhood stardom and transition to radio host sort of thing instead of like musician or whatever the current norm for that is.
Yeah, because it doesn't seem like they have reality TV stars.
Yeah.
So that's what they go into.
Yeah.
Radio.
Yeah. And I'm kind of okay without reality TV being big in this universe. Like, you see it enough in ours.
Yep.
Way too much of it.
Yeah.
She's really Jessica's only real friend and really a lifeline to Jessica in a lot of ways.
Yeah. I mean, it's the only person she really maintains connections to outside of her neighbor. And even that's kind of ruined by the time you hit midway through the season and realize he's only that way just because, he has to for drugs. So
Right. So, they kind of have this... I don't know. I guess I would call it Sisters Against the World theme. Brian, what do you think?
I mean, you like Sisters Against the World. You mean like
they watch out for each other?
Yeah, me and you versus the world.
Kind of, yeah. Kind of a feel to it.
I think a little bit, but I mean, at the same time, they're also so divided. Up until like midway through the season, that it doesn't really have that sort of feel until like the end.
Really, I just figure that's just simple squabbling is how I kind of looked at it. I don't know.
I mean, that's a way of looking at it. Just they apparently, I think they mentioned that after her recovery or Jones's recovery from like Kilgrave, like more or less just stayed isolated for a very long period of time.
Well, she did, but she never stopped trying to get a hold of her. She just wouldn't answer.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, but yeah, getting back to that, they watch out for each other. I mean, Jessica even protects her from her own mother, who's very controlling.
And it kind of hints at being very
abusive even.
Yeah. Because it hints at Trish having a very abusive childhood in a lot of ways.
Yeah, very much so. She kind of only used Trish to gain her star status.
Yeah, I mean, definitely a stage mom sort of character.
Oh, yeah, she definitely tried to use her daughter to get her stardom.
Yeah.
Kind of like that one, was that...
Honey Boo Boo.
Yes!
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking of.
I don't know, like, I saw the trailers and, like, clips of that, but I don't really know, like, the relationship dynamics there.
Well, basically, it's the mother who's using her daughter to gain stardom, and now the mother who's using the stardom of her daughter and the previous TV show to have her new TV show. It's kind of just one of those, like...
I don't know, like... Yeah. You kind of feel that way about a lot of pageant moms. Like, I don't know if that's a scene, but it's just, like, such a creepy subculture.
Yeah, but, I mean, with pageant moms, they like to have that... They like to be close to the spotlight, you know what I mean?
I don't know, like,
but they don't have their own reality shows.
I find child pageants so creepy, and which is why maybe I view it that way.
I don't watch them anyway.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't either. It's just like I find it creepy just on a conceptual level. Like,
yeah.
It's just...
Well, I mean, I ran into that problem with my daughter Caitlin when she was in dance, and like I was like, oh, she's learning dance and she's learning this.
Yeah, it's a skill set,
right? But then they started dressing them up, and they told them that they had to wear this really red makeup and eyeliner and all this other stuff, and I'm like, why? Like, why are we dressing them like this? This is weird.
Yeah.
But I can see what you're saying, though. It's kind of creepy watching these things.
Yeah.
But, yeah, she's like, she takes it to the nth degree, though, because even when we're reintroduced to her mother, she's actually the head of her own agency, and she's looking for the next Trish Walker, essentially.
Yeah.
Or Patsy Walker.
Because she wants to attach herself to her.
Precisely.
Yeah. So pretty much he, took that overbearing stage mom, was like, I'll make a career out of it.
Right.
Make money off all the children that want to be popular and successful.
Precisely. Yeah, at her gain.
Yeah.
So,
at her daughter's expense.
Yes.
Yeah. So that does kind of leave Trish, like, kind of paranoid, doesn't have the best trust relationships either. Mm-hmm. So when you actually do see her as, like, a Krav Maga student, like, it kind of builds into that, like, dealing with abuse, not letting people, hurt her sort of thing.
Pretty much, yeah. And it also kind of leads into Trish wanting Jessica to use her powers and to be a superhero because it's what she wants to do. She wants to aspire to be that.
And I mean, I don't know, maybe that's out of, like, a childhood fantasy of, like, defending others from, like, the things you've been through sort of thing.
Probably.
That kind of retaking power sort of dynamic.
Yeah, it could be taking the power back. Yeah, I could see that. She does know martial arts, though. We kind of see a scene of her working out or whatever. She had to stop because she injured herself, I guess.
Self-defense class, wasn't it?
Or something. Yeah, something
She had,
like
a
that.
self-defense tutor. Yeah.
But she's...
It was, I'm pretty positive it was Krav Maga, which is that Israeli self-defense force thing.
So she is training, and I could see them maybe seeing Hellcat in season 2. I don't know
Yeah,
what
I
you-
mean, it's... I'd like to
comes
see
out.
it. Like, it's definitely kind of a lower hero thing. Like, not necessarily, like... Probably even kind of weaker than, like, Black Canary on the DC side, but kind of in that same sort of realm.
Yeah.
Where, you know, it's just like a martial artist, kind of, you know, not really any superpowers, but just kind of, you know, doing what they can sort of thing.
Yeah, I kind of see her more of a... although she has powers. What's her name? Spider-Man. Cat? Is it?
Oh, Black Cat.
Black Cat, yeah, kind of a feel to her.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think Black Cat has, like, super strength
She
or
has,
some shit. But yeah,
she has like Captain America's powers or something.
yeah,
like
it's
that.
something really close to it.
Yeah,
But she actually even does have, like, a fight scene within season 1, though. So
yeah, she does. Kick
like, she
some
takes
ass.
on the one cop dude who, I guess they're hinting at being, like, Nuke or something
You're
like that.
getting ahead of us again, but yes, we'll
But,
get to
like,
it.
you have, like, a pretty heavy, like, fight scene there, whereas, like, she actually ends up kicking some ass, so...
Yep.
Like, the training does pay off, even if she does get pretty injured throughout the whole thing.
Yep. All right, so let's move on. Let's talk about Kilgrave, played by David Tennant.
Who did a fucking fantastic job.
Yeah.
Like, like, I only really knew this dude as being, like, one of the versions of Doctor Who, and then, like, you see this and, like, oh, that dude became super fucking creepy as a villain.
I didn't see him in anything else until I saw him in this, and wow. He did a phenomenal job, obviously. But
Yeah, it's definitely a lot of his acting skills that allows his character to work.
yeah, I think, I don't know, what did you think about David Tennant?
I mean, it was phenomenal. Like I said, he was one of the most thus far one of the most iconic portrayals of a Marvel villain we've seen yet.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, like, probably not coming back. Like, he
Exactly.
gets killed off at the end of it, so there's, unless you do some sort of, like, clone story, like, that's not happening.
Yeah, I
which
mean,
is-
it's funny because, you know, it's like Marvel has no concept of how to do that. At the end of Captain America, they killed off Red Skull.
Well, he's in space, but yeah.
Well, that's debatable.
I think he's still out there.
I hope he's. But,
he's going to do the Dr. Evil storyline.
No, he gets the Tesseract shoots him up in space, but that's fine.
the Tesseract actually just kind of transported him.
Okay.
It was like a transporter beam, so he
Yeah.
was up there somewhere. But where did he go?
We don't know.
Right, and then
Guardians of the Galaxy.
and then like this one would have been like, oh, that he'd been so good. He did better in Civil War than Nemo or Zemo would have been.
Yeah.
I don't know. I still think... I'm not sure he would have been great in Civil War, but as, like, a standalone villain, definitely fucking better.
Yeah.
Like, there's very few cats in the, like, villains that actually do as well. Like, I don't think his, like, childhood story kind of compares to what they did with Kingpin. But at the same time, even that was kind of an interesting backstory and actually made him a three-dimensional character.
Well, I think he's I don't know about you guys, but I think he's the perfect predator with his mind control powers. He rapes people. He takes things
Yeah, I mean...
from
he's-
people. I mean, everything. He literally takes everything from
Well, the
people.
funny thing is, like, it shows how he got there to a certain extent. Like, you had a kid who pretty much could just take whatever he wants. No one was able to tell him no. And it just, you let, you know, essentially a sociopath just run loose and just, with no restraints, no ability.
restrictions.
Yeah.
Yes, no
like, you
limits.
have that absolute power corrupting absolutely thing. And there's a fucking perfect example.
What do you think, Brian, about him being the perfect predator?
Yeah, I mean, like it's painfully obvious
Yeah.
watching that he can, you know, as he controls everybody.
Yeah. And actually uses his powers kind of intelligently at times.
Yeah.
Well, he does. It's like I said. He's such a predator that he has his own therapy group. For God's sakes, people are getting together. It's like the Kilgrave therapy group.
And the funny thing is, like, there's a point like early on in this season when after the one lady kills her parents, where she's using that defense. People don't think he's fucking real. Like, it's just he's an urban legend at that point.
Yeah, he's the boogeyman.
Yeah, just because, like, and that's a universe that already believes superpowered people exist. They've had aliens falling out of the fucking sky, and the dude with mind control powers is too far out there.
And kind of like what you were saying earlier, Aaron, he enjoys complete control and domination over people.
Oh yeah, like,
Because
people are toys.
Yeah, they literally are.
They
his play
aren't
toys.
people.
No, because he's been doing it, like you said, since childhood. Everyone is just a play toy for him to play with.
Yeah, essentially. Like,
Yep.
he really can take or do whatever he wants. If he was like, all right, I need you to jump off a building, people tried to jump off buildings.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, that's what the one cop dude does after, like, he's told that he's done with them.
Will Simpson, yeah.
Yeah.
His one, I guess if there's one thing that I don't know, if there's a weakness that he has, it's Jessica. He's obsessed with Jessica, Brian.
Well,
What do you-
Yeah, his kryptonite,
yeah,
essentially,
yeah,
is Jessica Jones.
yeah. Hey, what do you, go ahead, Aaron.
I think the thing that's really funny is, like, it's not even about Jessica. It's that lack of control.
Yeah,
Like, that's why he's obsessed with her, is because he used her for so long that she just became immune to it. Don't get me wrong, having a superpowered toy, I'm sure, is an upgrade from just your average person.
well, I think that was the part of the appeal at first. That's partly
Yeah.
why he kept her for so long
Oh, yeah.
and never let go. That was the initial appeal, because now he didn't have just a regular human being. He had a superpowered meta human, or whatever you
Yeah,
want to
so,
call
like,
him.
definitely is an upgrade in terms of toys, but it's interesting because you look at all the forms of manipulation he moves to after, like, he no longer can just control her directly, and it's almost as bad as the fucking powers he has to begin with.
Sure.
Like, he buys her childhood home, he's willing to, like, just kill people randomly for every day she doesn't, check in with them.
And I don't know what you guys think about this, but I think part of it is also that is not only does he can no longer control her, part of it, but she rejects him flat out,
Yeah.
and he can't control that either.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of it. What do you think, Brian?
Yeah, I mean that you always want what you can't have.
Yeah,
And for him, that's the one thing he can't have.
Yep.
and he's been able to have everything he's ever wanted.
Yeah.
His
So, I
entire
mean,
life.
it's the one thing that he's able to obsess over to that extent.
Mm-hmm.
It's the one exception to everything.
All right, so let's move on to Luke Cage, a.k.a. Power Man in the comics.
Yeah.
He plays Jessica's love interest.
Jesus Christ, does he play her love interest?
The super-powered sex scenes,
Oh my goodness.
tearing apart a bed.
Well, no, it's funny because
What,
like
you've never broken a bed?
Oh, sure. I have.
like
that.
like once they realize that neither one of them can be hurt,
Yeah.
they just fucking go at it, and it's just
Well,
like,
yeah.
oh my god.
I don't know. I thought that was kind of a funny moment because, yeah, generally they're your characters that would have to restrain themselves in that with anyone else.
Exactly.
Like,
And
it's the only time they can probably feel free in that
then-
scenario.
And then you watch the cracks happen in the wall, and
Yeah.
you watch the bed break, and you're like, what the fuck?
He plays part-time sidekick
Well,
to
kind of.
Jessica, kind of. And
Like, he has his moments.
the cool little twist, though, in the whole series, and spoiler alert coming up, is Jessica had actually killed his wife while under Kilgrave's control.
Yeah, that was actually the thing that kind of snapped her out of Kilgrave's control, weirdly enough.
Once she finally killed somebody on it, that's what snapped her out of it.
Yeah.
It's an interesting twist. I really liked it. I don't know. What did you think about that twist, Brian?
Well,
You know?
so there was that part of the twist, but what I thought was really weird was that she stalked him first. Like, she would sit across the alley because she was obsessed with the fact that she did kill his wife.
Yeah.
And then
And
she ended up kind of stalking him in between
and she
jobs.
she
and such.
stalked him, and she would go sit and drink on the catwalk across the street from the bar.
Yeah, and she kind of has the hots for him.
Yeah, and she'd sit there and just watch him and stuff, and then all of a sudden they kind of meet, and he thinks it's random.
And she's just like, this has been planned for months.
Yeah, it was one of those things like,
Or it wasn't meant to be planned for
Yeah.
months, but it's been like an obsession in the back of her head for
yeah,
months.
it's one of those things like, well, Kilgrave's a predator, but was she a predator too? I mean, because she's kind of stalking, and then all of a sudden now she's with him, and
It's I wouldn't necessarily put her in the predator category, but definitely obsessed. Definitely,
Yeah.
it was an itch she needed scratched, I guess.
Well, it's dealing with like her own sort of like survivor's guilt about the entire incident. Because I mean, she clearly is a victim in that scenario, even though she is technically the person that kills his wife, but not because she has a choice.
right.
So you do have that kind of survivor's guilt and that kind of obsession in dealing with that as part of everything.
Yeah, I don't know if that necessarily lends to her being
Like, don't get me wrong,
watching
like,
him like constantly or
like
not.
it's a weird interpretation of it, but it's a plausible one. I think like the mind does really weird things when it's trying to cope with things, and
Yeah.
like it's just one of those things.
Like I said, to me, it was just an itch she wanted scratched, and she found a way.
Well, it's not like she knew he was super powered, like when she was first stalking him or obsessed with him.
And I'm pretty sure she didn't know about that was his wife until later in the episode. She figures it puts two and two together later. So
like after she sees like her
after
her
they've
picture.
hooked up, and then she
That's
puts
possible.
it together. So
because you do see them first introduced when she's actually following a girl he's hooking up with because she's cheating on her husband as like part of the PI thing.
yeah, it's kind of sort. Yeah, that's true. I forgot about that part. So he obviously wants to protect Jessica from Kilgrave. Ironically, of course, he ends up under Kilgrave's super Kilgrave by that point's control.
Oh yeah, because he does that one little serum thing to boost his abilities.
Yeah, he uses his dad to make his abilities better. Takes his,
have the whole weird relationship with his parents thing.
Yeah. It was pretty good. It was a very good introduction to the character overall because it was a good setup for the Luke Cage series. Obviously.
The funny thing is, I feel like it actually set up the Luke Cage series better than how the Luke Cage series eventually ran with it a little bit. Mm-hmm. But I actually think it was a really good introduction. I mean, he's a likable character. You do see that he is actual kind of possible to injure him a little. I mean, it takes a shit ton to do it.
Well, I took like a shotgun to the shell just to knock him down, and that's when Claire comes back into the picture. But still, yeah.
Yeah, I mean that has like swelling on his brain and things like that. So it really does take a lot. Like it really shows like his demos his powers really well.
Oh yeah, because he actually does more kicking ass than she does, I think, in the series.
In some ways, but that's because you're dealing with her on a more emotional level and just using him as kind of a physical.
Bronze. Yeah, brawn. Yeah.
But I mean, she kicks ass at times. It's just she doesn't use her powers all that frequently. Like she really is kind of relying on just her normal everyday skill set much more heavily.
Brian, what did you think about the use of Luke and Jessica?
Oh, I like Luke in this better than I like Luke and Luke Cage.
Really? You feel the same?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so briefly, Claire Temple, let's talk about her. She's kind of thrown back in there. She doesn't have a lot to do with this storyline, Jessica Jones.
I mean, she's pretty brief.
She's the linchpin and everything for the Defenders, so that's why they threw her in.
Right.
Because she has that connection with all of the characters.
With every one of them.
Mm-hmm.
She helps patch up Luke when he does get injured.
I mean, there's that kind of cool thing where she's going in through like that little bit of like was it the one duct of the eye gland in order to try to reduce swelling on the brain.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's kind of a creepy fucking scene in its own way.
Yeah,
just from like that kind of surgical standpoint.
I don't like anything to do with the eyes, so yeah, it really creeped me out. Thanks for bringing that. I'd forgotten about that.
It's kind of an interesting scene though. Like it's like in terms of the show being more graphic, like that's one of those moments.
Yeah, I don't like anything to do with the eyes. It creeps me out. All right.
You mean like this?
Stop. But again, she's drawn back into the superhero world.
Yeah,
and
I think it makes good use of her. I think Dawson does a really good role, or a good job with that role.
Yep.
Even though in this case it doesn't always have the most lines or most.
I think she's in 2 episodes. I think total.
If 2 or 3.
Yeah. So, all right. So let's move on to Will Simpson, who you might not think's a big character at first, but he definitely evolves into one as.
Yeah, like this is not something I expected out of this at all.
I didn't see this one coming at all. I thought he was going to be in the one episode, and it was going to be a one and done, and that would be it.
You really weren't expecting it to turn into this whole thing. You have like the background story with the military thing. You're like, at first I was like, and especially because it's a character I'm actually not that familiar with to begin with.
Well, I wasn't either. In the fact that the way they introduce him, he's introduced as a cop under Kilgrave's control, and Jessica just happens to save him before he jumps off the building, and that's how he's introduced. And you're thinking, oh, he's just a victim, and then suddenly he becomes kind of Jessica's sidekick for a brief period of time.
Well, he's has a thing for Trish, and they're kind of getting along.
That eventually becomes it's like they just kept building with it, and
you're almost expecting it. It's weird because you don't necessarily you don't know where he's on in terms of like his side every time. And sometimes he is working against Kilgrave. Sometimes he's going in this almost Punisher-like direction of just, I'm going to wipe out everyone.
He definitely has that kind of Punisher mentality. What do you think, Brian?
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. We find out later he has special forces training.
And you have like this weird medical thing that goes along with that.
Yeah, it
Weird, like Jason Bourne program.
kind of, yeah, very much. I was going to bring that up. Very good point.
Yeah.
His obsession with getting Kilgrave kind of, that's what turns him extreme. That obsession with, he has to have Kilgrave.
Yeah, and
He
honestly,
has to.
like, because I'm not familiar with the Nuke character, like, I actually really thought, like, is this their version of Punisher they're rolling with? That's a weird way to introduce that, but...
I was never thinking Punisher, though, but I was confused half the time. I was like, this guy just keeps getting... and he looked just like Captain America there for a while, too. I was like,
You're like he's obviously, he's got to be somebody important. Who are we trying to make him out to be? And they never really said.
because
No,
when-
they never really say it flat out.
and again, when they first make him into a good guy sidekick, he looks just like Captain America. They dress him kind of like Captain America in street clothes. The haircut.
Yeah, it is actually pretty similar. Like, it's definitely a very military-inspired sort of thing.
And I kept thinking, man, he looks just like Captain America the whole time I'm watching it.
Yeah.
And then he slowly morphs into this more obsessed, creepy,
Yeah, like...
more and more
well,
creepy
it-
character. Takes a
well,
very dark turn.
It actually justifies that with the abusing, like, the drugs, like, in the program thing, in order to give himself more power.
Right.
So you also have that kind of weird control element with the character as well. Because you see him trying to take charge, trying to be protective, and kind of, in some ways, well-intentioned, but at the same time, in order to get to that point, he's kind of letting himself go deranged and kind of losing control of
He
himself.
loses control of himself. He really does. And, and that's why Jessica and Trish both end up rejecting him.
Yeah.
Because he's gone.
Because he's gone
nuts.
fucking batshit.
Yeah, and then he returns. That's when he goes back to the Black Ops program. I don't know what else to call it because we don't know yet.
Yeah, it never really gives
There's
too
a
much in
name
terms
of
of
a
origin.
company. I can't remember. Do you remember? Brian? It's going to be. It sounds like it's going to be the villain, maybe for season 2.
You think so?
Yeah, because somehow it's linked to Jessica as well. The
Oh,
same
okay.
company.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
It might be the same company from Luke Cage too. Now that I think about it.
Well, I think in Luke Cage they had the Hammer Corps thing, which is a link to Iron Man. Is it 2 or 3?
2.
2.
Iron Man 2.
Yeah, 2.
So yeah, so he starts taking these colored pills. There's red and there's blue, and I guess that's the major clue because I didn't know about this Nuke character, but apparently there's a character in Nuke and he has a tattooed face of the American flag on his face. Obviously, Will Simpson doesn't have that.
Yeah.
But that Nuke takes pills that are red, white, and blue that give him different abilities. So obviously that's what everybody thinks that
That's the character they're turning him into.
that he's going to be this Nuke
I don't know.
character.
I honestly wouldn't be surprised if they bring him back. I'd love to see like where that character goes. Whether you do that as like a contrast to a Punisher standalone or as a another character with Jessica Jones, I'd be fine either way.
If you put him with Punisher, that's going to be a very violent show.
Oh yeah, but I mean, if they do a Punisher standalone, it's going to be a very violent show.
But you put those two in the same room together,
Oh yeah,
Jesus.
like both just flipping out of vigilantes, both viewing each other.
They're
as pretty much
basically the same person.
just one's more crazy.
Yeah, one takes drugs, the other doesn't.
I think it's really weird that Marvel keeps putting these people in positions that are pro-America, like do the right thing, and they're getting their abilities because of stuff they take.
What, like Captain America?
Right, but Captain America was a one-off. Like, he only took it one time, and that's the way he stayed.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just a
But
super
you-
soldier,
Right,
essentially.
but you have this guy, and then you have the guy from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Which one are you talking about? Ward?
No. The new guy, the new chief, the new head guy in charge.
Oh, you're talking about the Patriot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he gets shot, and it's like just one of those
I don't
things.
know,
Like
it's a pretty classic sci-fi trope, isn't it? Like that kind of super soldier programs making like it's up there with like killer robots.
right. But what I'm saying is like it's just odd that's like seems to be a recurring thing for Marvel. Like they keep
You kind of have some of those
Like-
characters
like-
in DC.
Like they're trying to say it's the American way or something.
yeah, like they keep trying to do the right thing, but it always turns out bad.
I don't know. Like it's kind of like if you look at Red Hulk, it's kind of a similar storyline in that regard too. But DC has a couple of those characters that are just not as prevalent. Like I can't remember the DC dude, but there is one that's just like giant dude, big fucking arsenal of guns, but it's kind of stupid.
I don't know.
The characters do exist in the DC universe as well. They're just not necessarily on the DC shows to the same extent.
Yeah. I don't know. But yeah, it's I do kind of like how they snuck him in there without us realizing it until after the fact.
Like, I think it's
kind of like Hellcat. I didn't know that she was Hellcat. There was even a possibility of her being Hellcat.
Well, that's one of those things, like, it's another character that's kind of small, and it's like, I wasn't even really aware of the character until around the time the show came out or a little after.
Yeah, it's kind of cool how they're doing character building without us even knowing. I like that kind of surprise.
I think it's...
Like, they give us the backstory before we even knew who the backstory
Yeah,
was.
you have no idea that what you're watching. It's kind
like, it's setting up, like, multiple things at once.
Well,
and
it makes you look even closer when you're watching these shows. You're like...
Oh yeah, there's lots of Easter eggs in a lot of these things.
Is that who I think it is, or
there's a lot of setups for either
fun.
Other Defender shows or other characters, and kind of I think it works well in the long term because it gives them places to branch out to within the film or TV universe.
Yeah,
because there's a lot of characters that, even though as many as that are going to show up in Infinity Gauntlet, there's still a lot of smaller characters you can choose from within the Marvel universe.
Oh, sure. There's thousands.
Yeah.
So there's quite the catalog.
You have quite a backlog of people you can go through and kind of pick out who you want.
Yep. All right, guys. Well, we've dissected it pretty well, so let's just go right into final thoughts and grades. All right, Aaron, I'll let you go first, sir.
In terms of grade, this would be an A+. Like, this is a really rewatchable show in terms of the Netflix stuff, or actually even shows in general. Not only do you have probably one of the best villains in the Marvel, universe, you also have it played so well. You have deep, dynamic, three-dimensional characters. Like, don't get me wrong, you do have the occasional characters that are odd, like the neighbors, that it kind of maybe didn't play out as well as they were hoping. But overall, there was just so much going on in this. It was hard to step away from binge watching this entire season.
Yeah, I'll build off that and say, I agree. I would probably give this one a solid A. It was very well done. I knew nothing about it when I started watching it. In fact, Brian Ankerbauer got me. He's like, "You've got to watch this. You've got to watch this," because I wasn't even going to watch it. I was like, "Who's Jessica Jones? Why should I care?" I was incredibly surprised, incredibly taken back. At times, it takes really dark turns, maybe a little too dark at times, and that's the reason why I'm not going to give it an A+. But for my liking, but all that being said, it is still a very damn good show and is well worth your time, and definitely should check it out. Brian?
Yeah, I binge watched this in 2 days. It was that addicting. Probably if I'd have known how good it was, I would have started it earlier in the day to try to watch it all in one day.
Yeah.
It was just that good. When you're sitting there watching, you're like, oh my god.
Yeah, it kept taking twists you weren't expecting too, which was one of the best parts of it. It wasn't that predictable.
And it was only 13 episodes too, so it's not like you're gonna, you're wasting 22 episodes like a regular show, or it was 13, so it was just long enough to have your interest the entire time without getting too drawn out. There was the natural progression story arc. There wasn't you're following one thinking that's going to be it, and then that's it. There was that gradual buildup of Kilgrave, and you knew of him the whole time. It wasn't we're just going to introduce this character 4 episodes from the last one, and this is what the whole thing's been building up to. And I really like Kristen Ritter. I like her portrayal. She was also on Breaking Bad.
Oh, that's right. She was the girlfriend that overdoses.
Yeah, she was also in Breaking Bad. She was in a few other movies that I'd seen. She was in that one movie, Big Eyes.
I haven't seen that one yet.
I saw part of it, and it wasn't that great, but she was in that. She was in the Bee from Apartment 23, which I thought was hilarious. I don't know why they got rid of that. That was really good. But that character she played on there, that's why I actually watched Jessica Jones.
It's because you like that show.
Because I liked the Bee from Apartment 23. I was like, I really like her. I wonder how she's going to be in this show. And she turned out to be pretty good. So, yeah, A+ on my end.
Okay, copy that. All right, so where can you find 4 Midwest Guys? You can, it's real simple now. We have our own website now. You go to 4midwestguys.com. There you'll find links to our iTunes, Podbean, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. It's all right there, as well as all of our podcasts are there. There are links at the top that categorize our podcast. So if you just like listening to these Binge Watch episodes, you can click the Binge Watch link and it will show just the Binge Watch podcasts. If you want to listen to just Star Wars Rebels, you click Star Wars Rebels. If you want to listen to Miss Marvel DC Kings, you click Marvel DC Kings. They're all different kinds of categories on there to choose from and click. You can also leave us comments there. There's a contact us link. You click there, you type in your email address, type us a little note, message, and it comes right to our email account. Plenty of ways to reach out to us. You can comment on each individual podcast. Please do so. We want to know how we're doing. We want to know what we're doing right. We know what we're doing wrong. Let us know. So again, that is the number 4 MidwestGuys.com. Number 4, type the number 4 MidwestGuys.com. So check us out. All right, guys. Well, I want to, Aaron, thanks for joining us.
Yep, no problem.
Mr. Ankenbauer, as always.
Thanks for having me, man.
And for B. Willie, saying we will catch you next time.